As I said, I'm happy to call to order the 48th annual meeting of the Oakmont Village Association and welcome you to the close of the 50th anniversary year of Oakmont Village Community. My name is John Taylor, President of the Board of Directors, and our first order of business is to obtain a credentials report from our ballot committee chair, Nancy Caldwell. Nancy, from the back of the room there by the ballot box, do we have a quorum?
You do indeed. The voting power for this election as of the date of preparing the mailing list of members is as follows. Number of conventional residential units is 2,845. The number of conventional units in the Orchard is 156. The number of apartments occupied in Oakmont Gardens is 163, for the voting power of 3,165. The votes necessary for a quorum, which is 25%, is 791. The verified sealed ballot count as of Monday, April 7th, 2014 is 1,282, and a number of additional ballots have been entered now.
Thank you very much, and good luck with the counting tomorrow morning.
Thanks.
Our second agenda item is the unfinished business of nominations for Association Director. On February 1st of this year, Kathleen Conley, as chair of the nominating committee, reported to the board 5 qualified nominations. And I think I see them in the audience tonight, so I'd like to introduce them one more time. Andy Altman. Thank you, Andy. Suzanne Casal. Thank you, Suzanne. Evelyn George. Bob Giddings. Thank you, Bob. And Alan Scott. Alan, good evening.
Yay.
Under provisions of our bylaws, the floor is now open for additional nominations, if any. Seeing none, hearing nothing, a motion to close the nominations would be appreciated. So moved by Yepa Jewell. Second? Second. Pete, thank you. All in favor of closing the nominations?
Aye.
Thank you. The nominations are now closed. But during the next portion of the meeting, any members who have not yet voted or who hold a proxy that has not been voted are urged to do so. Nancy Caldwell will be shepherding the ballot box back by the entrance where you came in, and it'll be open until a little bit later in the meeting, at which balloting will be closed. It's a pleasure for me to introduce my fellow directors at the head table who committed so much time and thought to our association affairs during the past year. First is our Vice President, John Felton. Then Jim Kaiser, retiring director and past president. Herm Herman, retiring director and past vice president. Francis Diaz, Herman Hess, Evelyn George, who's completing her second year as a director, and that completes the directors. But in addition, we have Cassie Turner, our association manager, who you'll hear from later, Chuck Chenault, treasurer and former director, Hugh Helm, secretary, Malcolm Manuel, association general counsel, good evening, Malcolm, and Jim Ernst, auditor. Thank you, Jim. The next thing, according to our agenda, is the President's report. And I want to tell you that it's been an honor to serve as President the past 12 months. It's an assignment that can only be carried out with the hard work of fellow directors and officers, along with dedicated assistance of our association staff. It's also a job that requires the willing help and counsel of many Oakmont neighbors whose assistance and friendship I have enjoyed for many years. So I salute and thank all of you. Each year, our annual meeting provides an occasion to focus on the work of Oakmont's generous and talented volunteers. And if we could have the number 7 light switch function, Eric, perhaps they can see the charts a little easier as I go through my notes. We don't have the time tonight to name each individual or fully describe the contributions of all our groups and organizations. So with an apology for brevity and to any that I overlook. I'd like to start this recognition tonight by again saying thank you for a year of 50th anniversary celebration activities. Under the leadership of Sue Millar and Bob Chapman. What a marvelous set of enjoyable experiences they produced. And Ed Bain and his editorial staff are to be thanked for creating and funding the beautiful 104-page commemorative magazine. Then we have the hundreds of volunteers who focus on supporting neighbors and organizing a wide range of community activities. Oakmont Village now has over 120 clubs and activity groups contributing to our enjoyment of living here. This evening, I'd like to highlight the work of two, one long established, the other relatively new. Since its organization in 1981, Oakmont Volunteer Helpers have provided transportation services for residents to medical, dental, lab, and therapy appointments. Currently, Marianne Neufeld is the group's president, and during the past year, she told me volunteer drivers provided over 470 round trips, each one scheduled by coordinators who worked in 2-week shifts. In addition, when the Council on Aging began meal services for qualified Oakmont shut-ins, our volunteer helpers began a Meals on Wheels delivery service. During 2013, these drivers, 5 days a week, brought more than 5,400 meals to homes of residents in Oakmont that were shut in. Established more recently in 2007 to be exact as a 501c3 charitable institution, the Oakmont Community Foundation disperses grants supporting Oakmont educational activities. In 2013, 82 residents contributed tax-deductible donations to the foundation, which in turn made grants to educational purposes in our community totaling $19,398. The foundation board is currently involved in a community-wide outreach program to identify the full range of Oakmont activities that may qualify for their support. And finally, in this group of generous volunteers, we have the members of OVA's standing and ad hoc committees. They are the ideas, research, and recommendations backbone for our community input to long-range planning, community development, finance, communications, and landscaping, plus special short-term projects. In addition, several of our clubs and activity groups also make concentrated effort to reach beyond Oakmont Village to serve the needs of others. For example, in 2013, the Art Association made its largest ever donation of $4,000 to Santa Rosa Junior College Art Scholarships due to the success of their annual art show right here in the Berger Auditorium. Unique this year, as Chris Smith pointed out in his February 27th Press Democrat column, was Oakmont artist Mariel Green's purchase of an Art Start Luther Burbank bench. It's pictured here so that you can see the beauty of it, but she hopes to shortly have it on her porch, nailed down perhaps so that it doesn't walk away. Scholarships are also an important focus of the Oakmont Cal alumni. Each year, 4 Santa Rosa JC grads admitted to Berkeley are each awarded a $1,500 scholarship. Oakmont Kiwanis annual community service grants exceed $25,000. They assist many with an emphasis on youth programs and assistance to agencies that fight hunger. And Valley of the Moon Rotary grants several scholarships to Santa Rosa JC students who are graduates of Maria Carrillo High School, along with significant grants to many other community service activities. In addition, last year they completed placement of original artwork from Art Start on 14 beautiful street-side benches in Oakmont. Looking for them will be a pleasant walk if you haven't spotted them already. And finally, Visual Aids Workshop was first organized in 1971. These dedicated volunteers make basic Braille cards, tactile books, games, and math study aids for visually and mentally impaired children every Monday morning on the upper level of the West Rec Center. Several of their members have earned, after arduous hours of study and practice on the Perkins Brailing machine, their Library of Congress certificate as Braille transcribers. Last year, Oakmont's visual aid volunteers filled orders for more than 2,700 items that went to classrooms around the world. And currently, they're working on an order for 900 items for the Perkins School for the Blind in Watertown, Massachusetts. And this project would indeed benefit from participation from many more young visual aids volunteers. They hope you're interested. But please join me in applauding these organizations and their outreach beyond us. Thank you. Now I want to report and review the board's focus the past 12 months. The bold lines on this slide provide an overview. We look to develop a strong management team. We look to create additional communications outreach, and we focused on facility improvements. The first need we addressed was the development of a strong management team that would help the association get things done, especially improvements that had languished too long. This required some careful personnel, performance reviews, and budget work. Our effort led fairly quickly to the departure of our former maintenance manager in July and the late August hiring of Mark Rogers, who brought good resident interaction skills and a broad background in project management. With the assistance of a skilled management search committee chaired by Bill Anderson, we were able to find and attract the experienced, assertive, and fun to work with Cassie Turner to our challenging association manager's job. Cassie's prompt move to a house right in Oakmont put her squarely in the middle of her work immediately. So I conclude this personnel item by simply saying we're excited by the fresh spirit and get it done attitude of this Cassie Turner and Mark Rogers management team. But devoting time and resources to developing a strong management team did not keep the board from also moving ahead on our goals of communication outreach. And here's a summary in word and more pictures of our communication outreach action. Live stream transmission and video recording of board meetings began last April. The Communications Committee reports an average of 33 live stream board meeting viewers, at the same time that we have an average of 50 members alive and awake in the Berger Auditorium. Recorded post-meeting viewership is even greater. Data for January showed 476 unique online viewers of recorded board meetings, with a total of 936 visits to the site due to some viewers returning a second and third time. The OVA Information Blast program has been greatly enhanced by use of the new, attractive, and easier to use MailChimp format. And also the number of participants has grown from an average of 150 to over 800 by combining the OVA office and Communications Committee email lists. An additional communications tool, Oakmont's traditional telephone book, has been replaced by what we think is a handsome new format called the Community Directory and Resource Guide. And shortly, this spiral-bound coffee table type book will be supplemented by an online edition where you can access the information through the password-protected section of the OVA website. And we also added a couple of emergency phone locations in our facilities, including the CAC lobby and adjacent to the lawn bowling green, as you can see pictured here. Now let's take a few minutes to review the facility improvements in 2013-2014. New bocce ball courts were built and their adjacent areas landscaped for the first time. New, more secure, code-compliant, and attractive fencing was installed around the west pool. New poolside furniture, including 30 chairs, chaise lounge, and tables, were placed at the west. We added a second heater to the west pool equipment room, which for years has operated with only one, in order to better provide the warm west pool temperatures and balance the equipment load on the heaters so that they don't need replacement as frequently. Also installed in the west pool equipment room, as you can see by the picture on the right of this slide, is our first automated chemical injection system. Both chlorine and acid components are precisely measured, mixed, and fed into the system continually. This has saved staff time and reduced our chemical costs. Each system has an initial cost of about $5,000, and we plan to convert the central pool decks to achieve more savings and better management of pool chemicals. Construction of a code-compliant accessible parking area next to the west pool cabana was completed and enabled the reopening of an adjacent accessible gate. Resurfacing and restriping of the entire West Recreation Center parking lots and roadways was completed. And finally, at the West Rec, we've reached the point of actually going out for bid on structural repairs and remodeling of the men's and women's locker rooms within the framework of the existing West Rec footprint. You can see from this list that we'll manage structural repairs, replace the stucco finish, replace coping on the carpet parapet, remodel the men's and women's locker rooms, install new clear story windows in both the men's and women's locker rooms, as well as an additional exterior door, and new waterproofing on the bridge walkway. This picture doesn't do justice to the design, but you can see and touch the actual storyboards on 3 easels that are located in the lobby of the Central Activity Center for the next month, and we welcome your comments to the office staff at Manning about what you see there. Many of you may never have seen the beautiful hiking trail that climbs over the hill from Stonebridge Road to Meadow Ridge Lane. The game field exercise course, a preliminary version for seniors that parallels the park course concept, was initially built along this trail as a donation for Memorial Hospital. But over the years, parts of the trail railing had deteriorated. And so during this past year, 950 feet of the trail's original craftsman-style railing has been repaired and replaced. Moving then to the East Recreation Center, the board took advice from the Axis forensic report in giving first attention to the deck posts and beams, the locker room doors, and the locker room ventilation system. Here are some comments about what was done as far as the deck is concerned. It has 18 8-inch square posts that you can see in this picture, and each one needed to be cleared of a portion of dry rot and the resulting cavities filled with expansion foam. And then the custom-made metal caps pictured on the right of this slide were installed. The same dry rot removal and foam insertion was only required on 5 of the more than 100 cross beams that actually support the decking material. That work was done, and we feel this repair work leaves the East Rec deck strong and safe for at least 10 years. The original locker room doors that did not meet exterior standards were replaced with code-compliant doors that include additional ventilation capability designed in conjunction with a new locker room specific and self-regulating heating and ventilating system shown on the left of this slide. In addition, East Rec Center's original heating and ventilating system serving the rest of the building has been totally replaced. This includes the new condenser units shown on the left and our 10 by 12 foot mechanical room, which I found impossible to properly photograph, full of fans, pumps, filters that create a comfortable environment and a far more efficient operating at the east. The electrical controls and well pump serving the East Recreation Center pond are located in this equipment box adjacent to tennis court number 1. Built in 1985, the cable connecting to the pond aerator 100 yards up the hill was a simple direct burial circuit. Last year it failed and needed to be immediately replaced by trenching, installing conduit, and pulling in a new circuit to keep the pond from stagnation and insect proliferation. We're also enjoying new high-quality audio, video, and spotlighting system installed in the reoriented East Recreation Center main room. Work to properly identify Oakmont's Pythian Road entrance was also completed this past year. It's a prominent, inviting symbol by day and gleams at night through OVA's first use of solar power. Our ad hoc committee working on improvement of signage throughout OVA facilities has made great progress with a plan implemented by our maintenance staff to eliminate sign clutter at our pools. The committee was appalled that the facilities looked like this. And so now that you can see that steps have started to reflect a clean, uniform look, starting right at the pool entrance gate. Phase 1 of the inviting Burger Plaza redesign and repair is structurally completed, and the handsome lighting fixtures to finish the work are due for installation later this week. We're also pleased to report that the Burger Auditorium stage, under which we store folding chairs and tables, is now structurally safe. Work was completed to install 160 seismic anchor bolts to hold the property in place and to give it, with a drywall lining on the underside of the stage, the code-required 1-hour fire rating. Moving outside, an application has been filed, deposit paid, and engineering drawings provided to PG&E to permit replacement of the old electrical cage pictured here on the left, and to install new transformer and central switching equipment cabinets similar to those shown here. Also, work on the Oakmont Drive entry medians, drip irrigation, and landscaping has been finished, and steps have been taken to do our part with water conservation in other central areas by spreading bark over grass and turning off the sprinklers. I want to suggest, in closing my report, that new directors being elected and those of us continuing our present terms need to keep in mind and act to meet a number of what I feel personally are significant challenges. This slide, even though my work to put it together didn't all fit the way it should, illustrates the points that I want to bring to your attention. We're going to have facilities that are accessible to all. We have to have facilities that meet competitive challenges from other communities. We need to meet members' changing needs, and we need to consider doing this with funding that will not involve developer contribution. And I suggest that the age of our residential properties and growth in the number of rental properties is creating a need for more aggressive enforcement of Oakmont's CC&Rs with regard to age restrictions and property maintenance. Here are 4 random examples of deteriorated roadways, peeling paint, roofs and gutters long overdue for replacement, and old overgrown landscaping. Your support in all that OVA does, I think, will be a key to a successful second 50 years. So now I get to sit down and we get to listen to our new manager, Cassie Turner, with barely 5 months as an Oakmont resident, to share her thoughts and hope for us. Cassie?
Good evening. Thanks for your warm reception for me. I appreciate all the applause. Made me feel great. As you can tell by the board president, John Taylor's presentation, the board has been very busy and they know there's a lot more to accomplish. My advice to the new board members, whoever they may be, is fasten your seatbelts. One of the questions I keep thinking about as Oakmont's association manager is, who does Oakmont want to be in the next 50 years? What does it mean if we don't know exactly who we are now and where we are headed? If there are some parts of Oakmont that need to change for the benefit of the community, how do we identify these and how do we go about changing them? The board, the Long Range Planning Committee, and I realize that it is time to start asking those kinds of questions so that Oakmont can remain a vibrant, attractive community. In order to do this, we have to start thinking about a vision, create a brand, and develop a strategic plan in order to get us to where we need to be in the 55 and older community marketplace. In other words, where do we fit into this spectrum, and how do we keep attracting quality buyers? Why did you move here? What is it exactly that you love about this place, and why are you staying? We need to identify and build on those answers to those questions to keep Oakmont a highly desirable retirement community. We need to know if the same reason that brought you here are the same reasons other people are coming and buying into Oakmont now. If the reasons have changed, we need to know why. How do we find the answers to these questions? Extensive surveys and research will identify what makes this community what it is and who is currently purchasing the homes here. I bet you that the Del Webb organization can tell you exactly who their target market is. Who is our target market? If you cannot see tomorrow, you won't be ready for it when it comes. 85% of the Fortune 500 companies a generation ago no longer exist. To name but a few, Amoco, Beatrice Foods, Gillette, Northwest, TWA, and Schwinn. We want to keep ahead of the curve and not behind it. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, 1 in every 9 Californians now is age 65 or older, and that will increase to 1 in 5 within the next 25 years. This population is expected to reach 12.5 million by 2040, an increase of 232% from 1990. What does that mean for Oakmont? Does that mean we don't have to worry because everyone will still want to try and buy in here? I think the competition is going to get fierce. We cannot manage what we cannot measure. To that end, here are some additional questions that need to be asked and answered in order to plan Oakmont's future. What are the wants and needs of the people living here now? Who is buying into Oakmont, and what are their wants and needs and expectations? Are their wants and needs in alignment with the rest of the community? Who isn't buying into Oakmont and why? Where are they going? What amenities do other retirement communities have, and what is the size of their budgets, reserve, and capital improvement funds. Once we can answer these and other related questions, we can begin to develop a vision, a brand, and a strategic plan for the future. In summary, we all know that Oakmont is an absolutely great community, filled with wonderful, gracious, and interesting people, one of which left a note on my car windshield today letting me know that my lower right rear tire needed air. That's the kind of community I want to live in. I want you all to know that as your manager, I am committed to make sure that Oakmont remains a very special community in our little bit of heaven called the Valley of the Moon. I always welcome your comments and or suggestions. My email address is cassie@oakmontvillage.com. Thank you.
The next item. The next item, can you hear that? The next item on our agenda is to hear our auditor's report. The James Ernst accounting firm has undertaken OVA's audits for several years, and we asked Jim Ernst to come tonight to give us his 2013 report. Thank you, Jim.
Good evening. How are you tonight? This is accounting, so I apologize. It's not the most exciting information that you're going to hear tonight. First of all, I am Jim Ernst from James Ernst Accounting, and it's true we have been the auditors for this association for a number of years, gone through several managers, and are pleased to have worked with the board, your treasurer, and your current manager for this last audit, and your accounting service company that provides that service. And the audit has been handled under the direction of my audit manager, Brett Charez. And we're very pleased to report that the audit has been completed, it has been approved by the association board, and the financial or the tax returns have been presented for signature and filing. The responsibility that we have when we conduct our audit is to come back and express an opinion on the financial statements taken as a whole. And when conducting our audit, we conducted in accordance with the auditing standards established by the generally accepted accounting principles in the United States of America. We have to have U.S. standards because there are worldwide standards. And they require that we plan and perform our audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatements. This is an audit of the historical financial statements of the association. It does not address the direction you're going in financially, but we are pleased to say that in our opinion, the financial statements for Oakmont Village Association present fairly in all material respects the financial position of Oakmont Village Association as of December 31st, 2013, and the results of its operation and its cash flows for the year then ended, in conformity with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. That is the opinion that we express in our audit report, and we provide a financial statement that's presented on the fund accounting method of reporting and the full accrual basis of accounting with substantial notes to those financial statements and supplementary information. And that information has been made available, as I understand, to the membership as of this point in time. And that is the gist of what we do. We come out here and we spend several days in your offices. We spend time at your accounting service office. And we work very closely with everybody in management, in the board, treasurer, to come up with this conclusion. Very appreciative of all the assistance and help that we get along the way. So I thank you very much for the opportunity to be up here.
Thank you. Gary Pickering just snuck up and told me that the sound works better if I use this microphone. The next item of on our agenda is unfinished business, which is simply the formal close of balloting. Now, I haven't seen anyone jump up and go back to put anything in the ballot box back there, but if there are any, I'm about to close it, so please do so. Seeing none, I have the responsibility of declaring the balloting closed. Put the lid on it, please, Nancy. Finally, to new business, which for the first portion is a chance for members to comment or to ask questions. And if any of you want to do that, in light of the microphone situation, I'll be glad to bring this portable one to you.
That's all right, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your contributions to the Oakmont Village Association this year and to all the directors. Thank you. I just wanted to ask whether or not you could give us an update on the status of your negotiations with the Berger Foundation with regard to the beauty parlor.
Yes, I'll be glad to. The board in executive session met with an attorney hired with special skills in the real estate area, and subsequently he met with a land use consultant, which we hired to do a brief background research into what obstacles, if any, might exist in connection with going forward. The result of that was neutral, and therefore Malcolm Manuel, our general counsel, is in the process of preparing a letter of intent to be sent to the Berger Foundation to negotiate the purchase of the property. That has not been sent yet, but in the process of editing. Any suggestions on when that'll happen, Malcolm?
I'll get to you this week.
Thank you.
What? What?
He said he'll get it to us this week. Any other questions? Nancy?
I think the report was excellent. All the pictures were excellent that showed us everything that's happened. And I know there's still a lot going on. And I have a request that this is videotaped. This is online for people to see. But the workshops that are held once a month have not been videotaped. And a lot of discussion, a lot of ideas come forward, and very, very few people go to the workshops. I request again, is it possible to get the workshops videotaped?
The Communications Committee is working on a new set of recommendations regarding a number of advancements or enlargements of use of video as a communication tool, and we're awaiting that recommendation. What it really gets down to is what will we be willing to spend to carry on this activity. It is reaching the point that the type of coverage that we seem to be enjoying goes beyond the limits of volunteer effort. And so we're facing the question of, to what extent do we invest in the equipment or lease it from someone who has it? And to what extent do we put on the payroll, or at least hire as a personal communications official to give us the time that's necessary? It's not only the hour or the 2 hours that may be associated with the meeting, but it also has to do with the kind of editing that's involved. And that then gets into the question of whether or not we go forward with a 3-camera operation like they're operating back there tonight, which then requires merging of slides and audio and video, or whether we go forward like the City Council does with just a single camera. And in that situation, you don't get quite the quality of coverage, but you don't get into the time that's required post-meeting to edit the material. So that's why we're going to the Communications Committee for their analysis and recommendation. Seeing no one else stand up to ask a question, It's a special pleasure to reach this point in our annual meeting because we get to say thank yous to several individuals that have made years of contribution to the association. So underneath the counter here, go with the ladies first. We want to thank Evelyn George for her contribution in 2 years on the board. We appreciate all your straightforward comments and all your hard work.
If I may just make one comment? Is my mic on?
You're on.
Okay. I have considered the time that I have spent on this board an honor, and I want to tell you it has been a real privilege to have served with the men and women who have been a part of these boards. I can only say to you, as a testament of the time, the effort, and the dedication that these people have made really deserves a lot of recognition. And thank you for all of your help as you come forward and give us your thoughts on our meetings going forward. Thank you so much.
And then we have retiring from the board with the biggest growl in his voice, but the gentlest manner underneath it, Herm Herman, who has served 4 years, 2 of those as vice president. You can use this mic if you want. All right.
I always have something to say. If I get rid of the frog, there's an old saying that people who are retiring just sort of fade away. All I wanted to say is to thank all this board for all of their help, all of the staff particularly for all of the hard work they give for this community. To tell you that I'm not going to fade away. I've enjoyed working on the board. I worked with the Architectural Committee 5 years before that. I believe in this community. I think there's a lot of things that we have accomplished. I think there's a lot of things that we still need to accomplish. I plan to be involved in that in one way or another. I hope to go in the long-range planning committee myself and give them whatever benefit my experience I can, because this is a great community and I want to see it grow and continue to be great. And thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you.
And then we have Jim Kaiser retiring. I'm just trying to struggle through 1 year as president. Jim managed 2 beautifully, and we're going to miss him on the board.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to thank all my fellow board board members, past and present, and also all the support that's been said several times tonight, but it can't be said enough, of our staff and all the volunteers who work on. Well, those of you that have worked and put the time in, you know it's the volunteers that really hold this place together. Once again, thank you very much.
We are always happy to recognize volunteer contributions to our community, but when it comes to our annual meetings, it's a special pleasure to honor one as Oakmont's Volunteer of the Year. Such recognition this year has proved to be a little challenging because our honoree, who shuns the spotlight, had to work tonight. However, 2 of his associates volunteered to fill in behind the cameras, so we could properly bring Dutch Licklider here to the podium. Such is unmatched in my judgment in his commitment of time and energy, along with his creativity, when it comes to achieving the goal of expanding the reach of communications media in Oakmont. He sees communications as both a resource for our organizations and a way for each of us to enrich our lives. We know him for initiating Oakmont Buzz on Facebook. We know him for establishing the Oakmont Symposium video programming. We know him for creating live streaming and recording OVA events, and at the same time doggedly tracking the extent to which the video dimension is accessed by residents. Most recently, we know him for identifying the use of MailChimp software to enhance OVA email communication and expanding the list of email recipients. So I'm honored to take off this wrapping that I tried to do. And don't lose the top part.
Save the papers.
It's wrapped very tightly.
What is it?
To present, on behalf of the Oakmont Village Association Board of Directors, the 2014 Volunteer of the Year Award to John Dutch Licklider in recognition of his dedication to communication services for the benefit of our entire community.
It doesn't seem appropriate, to be rewarded like this for something that I really enjoy doing so much. The second thing I want to say is that the award has to be shared with my partner, Gary Pickering. Without Gary, we just wouldn't get these things done. Thanks so much, John, the board, and I really enjoy what I do for Oakmont. It's a wonderful place. Thanks.
And that really brings to a conclusion the formal part of our meeting tonight. We actually go into recess to the ballot counting, which will take place tomorrow morning starting at 9 a.m. in the West Rec Center upper level. You're invited to observe if you want, but please be quiet so that you don't disturb the counters, and so Jim Ernst doesn't have to admonish you. The board meeting will reconvene tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. at the upper level of the West Rec Center so that the board and the newly elected directors can have their organizational meeting. Thank you all very much. Good night.